Good afternoon to all our participants. You're welcome to this session. We have Mrs. Bridget Itsueli as our guest at this session. We are bringing her on in a few minutes. Mrs. Itsueli, I'm going to read her profile now. She is a very experienced speaker, and from her background, you will agree with me that we are really honored and blessed to have her in our midst. Mrs. Bridget Itsueli is the founder and chairperson of Relate Africa Organization for Marriage and Family. She's a certified mediator, counselor, and Myers-Briggs personality consultant. She is also an experienced marriage, family, and relationship counselor, and a cognitive behavioral therapist with 36 years in the successful practice of counseling thousands of engaged and married couples, singles, and individual members of the family. She's a well-known national and international speaker. Mrs. Itsueli provides marriage education for engaged and married couples, sexuality education for parents and youth, and practical skills in counseling for counselors. Mrs. Itsueli has designed special training courses for the integral development and growth of members of the family in the home and in the society. She has personally trained over 500 trainers in the Train the Trainer sessions for practical skills in counseling, which she pioneered. So she has a vast repertoire of experience, in the field of counseling and emotional support. She will be speaking at this breakout session on total well-being, mental and emotional health. On that note, I would like us to warmly welcome Mrs. Bridget Itsueli to the microphone. Mrs. Itsueli, ma, you're welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Dr. Oshodi, for that amazing introduction. I am very honored to be here, and I'm looking forward to the sharing that we're going to have. For a start, she has sent me some questions that I want to look at. And I think that I ask these questions, it will speak to some of you, and you'll be able to say, find the answers in the things I'm going to say for a few brief moments. And then we'll go into your own questions if there are more questions and the talk has not answered those questions. So welcome everyone to this session, and all the very best as we hope to get the best out of the session.
You may share your screen, ma.
Okay, sure. Oops. Today, I've just taken, because the whole conference is on being, I have said our session, we should look at, let me be woman. Let me be who God created me to be. And we're going to look at the yearnings and aspirations and at the dissonances, that in other words, the things that separate us from who we are and cause incongruence in our lives. In other words, my brain is thinking and wanting something, but the reality I'm in is not allowing me to be that something or that someone. And so I feel trapped. And it is a terrible thing because that is the greatest source of mental health disturbances. Mental health issues are not limited to madness. They begin by you finding yourself in a state of incongruence, in a state where your reality does not represent your dream or your destiny. So we shall look at some of those areas. Where are those areas that this happens? But to start with, a philosopher, Socrates, says, become self-aware first. Self-awareness. Who am I? Who is woman? And I have found that it is easy to know who woman is. All you need to go is to go to the mind of God if you're a Christian. What did God have in mind when he made me as a woman? And so let's go to the mind of God in Genesis 1:26. And in that verse, God says, in the presence of the Son and in the Word and in the presence of the Spirit, he said, let us make man in our own image and likeness and let them rule. Notice, he didn't say let him rule. Some people miss the pronoun. Let us make man in our image. So man is not a singular person. And likeness, and let them rule. So that's number one. Them. So that man encapsulates someone else. We see that someone else in the handiwork of God's creation. We move on to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27. And behold, we see exactly what God is saying. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So in verse 27 already, God has separated man into two in his mind. But when he got to verse 27, he now told you that he was not creating the him of 26. The them of 26 is actually male and female. And not what is interesting that people don't tell us as women. Take this away today if you remember nothing else. That in the mind of your creator, he created you for something. God blessed them. Who did he bless? Male and female. And God said, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish, the birds, and over every living creature that creeps upon the ground. Verse 28. The mind of God is the factory of God. The fact that we saw Adam out first does not mean God was going serially. He had already created in Genesis 26 and 27, he'd already created male and female. It took him time to reveal creation to us. He first revealed the male, then he revealed the female. But all were created in the mind of God in Genesis 1:26 and 27 and 28. In other scripture verses, and gave them dominion. Listen to this. Who got dominion? It wasn't the man. It wasn't Adam alone. It was Adam as he was represented as male and female. And so you come from heaven as a woman with a destiny God has given you in your hand. That destiny is not about anything else but about you. Who am I as woman? When God was creating me in his image and likeness, what was it? I was created to rule along with men in the world. I was created with men to rule. But unfortunately, we're not used to this kind of sentence. What we're used to is being dominated. We allow ourselves to be used. 64% of women actually rate the value of having freedom to make their own choices as an essential guiding principle. In other words, many women, when I talk to them, they say, oh, whenever my husband travels, that's when I'm free. Oh, whenever this. And you see this yearning for freedom. And that was the thing. You cannot dominate. You cannot rule when you do not have freedom, when you are being dominated. And so immediately your mental health is at stake. People have said, psychologists have said, that marriage is a good relationship. And it is. We Christians know it. But why is it that so many women suffer in marriage? Why is it that our destinies seem to be obliterated because we married? Or because we in fact didn't marry? Or because we lost our husbands? So these are three areas of stress for women. One, dominated by marriage. Two, dominated by no marriage. Three, dominated by loss of marriage. Can you imagine that? And yet, no man will tell you that without marriage, he is not being fulfilled in his life. But women have taken it because of the negative socialization we have received. Because the way the scripture has been interpreted has been different, has not focused on women. If you look at the Old Testament, even in the New Testament, in the feeding of the 5,000, the social Jewish community did not count women. So when they counted the 5,000, they said not counting men or women. When you look at chapter 19 of Matthew, you see them asking, shall we divorce our wives for any reason whatsoever? What does that mean? I can wake up and say, I don't like the way you prepared my water to have a bath, therefore divorce. They didn't understand the mind of God concerning woman. And so Jesus came to correct them. And he said to them, in the beginning it was not so. For God made them male and female. That is why I began this afternoon with the beginning. The correction of Jesus is he's telling the men, wipe your eyes very well. That's not what I meant. Go back to Genesis and see what God meant. Equality of the spouses, but differentiation of roles. In a family, there must be a leader. In any institution, there must be a leader. And God has called the man to be the leader. Because God has endowed the man with certain leadership qualities, with a certain sensitivity, with a sacrificial nature that actually goes against his socialization. So the socialization of the male child is selfishness. Meanwhile, the way he was made for sacrifice, which is why Jesus came as a man, to make that sacrifice. And calls every man as husband, be like me. Return to the initial design. And we are still doing the same thing. We're raising our sons to be non-sacrificial. We're teaching them not to be sacrificial. We're teaching them to dominate. And you know where domination came from? You'll be wondering where it came from. Domination came from Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. Where God, in punishing the woman for what she had done, for listening to the devil and listening to the lie of the devil and calling God a liar, the woman was punished. Your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. This is an upside down turning of what God said in Genesis. God himself turned it upside down. He was so mad with what the woman did. But you know what? Hallelujah. He sent Jesus. And go through the Gospel of Luke, you will see how Jesus treated women. The Gospel of John, the Samaritan woman at the well. When he meets women, he explains the spirituality, his mission. He tells it to them, and they catch it quickly. And women followed him. It was not possible that any rabbi, that any scribe, that any Sadducees will have women in their team. Jesus had. So that he can change it. I'm telling you all this so that when we begin to talk about the reality of our lives, you will know that I'm not just taking it from, sociology or anything. I'm going back to the divine plan. And so this domination, where did the society get it from? They got it from Genesis 3:16. Your husband shall rule over you. Your desire will be for your husband. And so women are desiring husband anyway, even if it means marrying a man they know is not suited to them. Let me just marry. And then they enter and they see the mistake. And they see that God didn't plan and God didn't plan and God didn't want manage marriage. Marriage was the crowning glory of God's creation. It was the last thing God created. And to say this is the crown. But many women find it to be a curse. Not a cross, because a cross is a good thing. Many women, marriage is for them. Sex is a cross. Is a curse. Everything God created about marriage is a curse. Why? We need to find out why. And that's a very serious indictment on us as Christians if we're not able to do this. Single women are trapped in being looked down on because they're single and unmarried. They forget that they can rule without being married. They feel dominated. A woman outside of marriage is dominated. The one inside marriage is dominated. The one that the husband has died is dominated. What kind of life is that? That is not a life of salvation. That is not a life of redemption. Then the ones that are even married feel trapped when they are childless because they feel they cannot contribute to society unless they have children. They forget they can rule. And so it's important for us to recognize, who am I? Get back into yourself. What is the negative socialization you have received? You are, number one, trapped in the wrong understanding of submission. You are living in denial of your hopes and your dreams. And you only have one precious life that the Creator has given you. And you are living it in apologetic, disastrous, and unhappy, resentful situation. I can't find enough negative words to say how women are trapped. And you are trapped, even Christian women, and that's the one that shocks me, that Jesus hung on the cross and said, you are free. And we read Ephesians chapter 1, verse 1, that says, you have been blessed with every spiritual blessing, but you are not living in that blessing. Honestly, you're not. You are full of resentment, anger, jealous of your husband's success, jealous that you don't have as much money as your husband, or even when you have as much and more, you dominate him because you have learned to dominate. You've learned how to dominate from him. From the society, you've learned to dominate. So now, women who are any more than their husbands are dominating the men. Well. As if in payment for other women. So mental wellness, what is it about? It's about taking care of what is in my mind. What are my cognitions? We call cognitions the knowledge that feeds your mind. And that knowledge makes you act as you do. So your mind, you need, but meanwhile, your destiny, what God, the divine nature in you is asking for something else. For instance, I say to people, human beings are not only biology. We are a theology. We're theology, meaning that we are a study of God. God reveals himself in me as a person. Imagine a pregnant woman reveals God. How does she get pregnant? What happens after she has had sex? Where does that sperm and egg meet? Only God can explain all that. And so immediately as we look at a pregnant woman, we see God. We look at a man, we see God. We look at a man that is a Christian, living a Christian life, we see God. And so really, in each of us, when we were born, we came with stamps, seal, that God has said, this is you. And your mental wellness is based on that inner thing that God has sent you to do, cohering with the environment in which we live. This is why women must pray, because there is so much going on that you can easily think that what God wants you to do is what you are seeing other people doing. That we begin to copycat. That woman did this, so I must do it. That woman, no, return to your place of prayer. Ask your Father in heaven, who created you and who knew what he put in you. Sit down with a sheet of paper and say the things you like doing. One writer I know said, at any given moment in our lives, we can do 50 things. We have talent for 50 things. If that is true, if one road is blocked, there's another thing going. Sit down with a pen and pencil. You are not trapped. Tell yourself you're not trapped. If the door is closing on one thing, remember you have rulership. You have dominion. Call up the other talents in you. And if you can't, check again the one you have. Where can you start it? And that is what is important for us. Becoming God's woman. I talk about becoming. The last president of America, Obama, wrote a book I bought that book only because I like the word becoming. I've used it for 20 years. That women must enter the state of becoming. And that state of becoming is not a finished work. That finished work is finished in heaven. But becoming God's woman is a state of becoming. And so prayer, God, who did you make me to be? What do you want me to be? Secondly, if you can do that, so what is the gender stereotyping that I have? Who has told me that I can do this, I can't do this? Who has told me that? What is it that I want to do? I've seen women who are mechanics. I've seen women who are everything and anything. Looking, maybe there's something God's woman, God is calling you to be his woman. And that's the most important thing. Today, I hope as I have spoken, you have become aware of your own identity and importance. But unfortunately, many of us use our beauty, our body, our education, and that's why I don't give any qualifications about me. I don't. I am just simply God's woman. And that's it. And I'm becoming that woman every day. I haven't got there, and I don't think I will in a lifetime, because God's woman is somebody you can't fathom. She has a divine nature, and you can only know that nature when you get to God. So every day I am becoming that woman, and that's what you must ask. But where do you find it? Place of prayer. This morning there was a talk on prayer. I hope you listened to it. The first thing is deal with your identity and prayer. Go to God with your identity. Don't ask for car. Don't ask for house. Don't ask for the creature comforts of this world. Return to who you are. Ask your creator. Trust me, he will tell you. Okay? So we don't want to be exploited by men, but we dress up and dress up our kids to be attractive to men without realizing it. I go to church sometimes. I see Bible study classes, religious education classes. Children come wearing shorts. Children come wearing spaghetti dresses in church. That is not to say that they can't wear it to the swimming pool, or they can't wear it to the beach, or they can't wear it on a picnic. But we need to teach our children how not to become sexual targets. Very important. Very, very important. Rape has increased in the world. In New York, there's a rape every 14 seconds. Count that. We have not taken statistics of Nigeria. The rape that is taking place in houses, in families, you will be shocked. I took a holiday class of 500 children. 33% of children reported incest. Cousins, uncles, fathers molesting them sexually. We took of single women and married women working in offices in Lagos. 48% are sexually harassed. What are we doing about it? And so what has happened is we live in fear. We live in fear. We address the gender stereotyping and we feel powerless. So the important thing, first of all, is who am I? And I've told you who you are. What do I want for my life? I told you how to find out. How do I get there? That's what we're going to do now. How do I get there? What must I avoid to get there? If you're a married woman, your marriage can never be a block to what God has put in your hands. Never. And if it is, go down back to prayer and ask God to take it away. If it is God that brought that thing, and then he will give you the mannerisms to get what you want. If you are in the office, we call it soft skills. Soft skills. We have soft skills. And these soft skills, politeness, respect for your husband. These are the things if you're a married woman. If you're a single woman, congratulations, you go full steam in what you want to do. If you are a widow, same thing. But the widow, and you know the position of the widow, especially when the husband is earning more and when he dies, his earnings are out. What are we doing as church for the widow? What are we doing as SMEs for the widow? So the widow needs help. The widower usually can marry again, but the widow cannot go and be begging men to marry her. Neither can the single woman. So the important thing for the single woman is, how can I use the love in me? Women are made of love. When God said, you are made in the image and likeness of God, You resemble God because you are made of the material of which God is made. And that material is love. 1 John chapter 1, chapter 4, verse 8 says, God is love. So when God said, I'm making you in my image, he made us to be love. Man and woman. So we don't have to look for love. But our negative socialization, you grew up in a home where your dad was beating your mom, where things were not normal, in a dysfunctional home. If you are sitting here and you are already a mature woman, sit down and think about it. Sit down and ask yourself, did I come from a dysfunctional family? What did I learn from my family? Seek a counselor. Seek counsel, either in church or wherever. Make sure you get a good counselor. And sit down and say, there are many girls who are raped. They are wives today, but they are frigid wives. They cannot tell anybody that they are raped. And so marriage, sexuality is a problem. Same thing as single girls. They've been raped. They can't talk about it. They've been harassed in one way or the other. So I want you to sit down. What is causing the insecurity? Go back to your childhood. Return to it. Exorcise it. If you want your pastor to pray for you, go and let him pray for you. Take it out of your life. Then sit down and find yourself. Take away anxiety for marriage. If you are single, take away the anxiety for marriage. Once you decide that God gave me something in my hand, sit down and get on with it. The funny thing is the University of Stanford did a research, and they said in that research that actually when men and women get married, men get a lot more out of marriage than women do. And I found that strange at the beginning, but I'm beginning to see it. And they said that the gap between a married woman and a single woman is a smaller gap than the one between a married man and an unmarried man. In other words, apart from having children, there isn't even any difficulty. And one of the terrible things women are doing is giving them more insecurities, going against the word of God, to birth children when they have no husbands. Every child is entitled to a father and a mother. To deliberately mother a child that you know the father will not be there for him is actually an abomination in the eyes of God. But however, if you are in a rape, you are in a situation of a mistake, you didn't plan the child, congratulations for keeping the child, because God will bless you. So no abortion for the single woman, not allowed, because that wasn't your case. God will come to help you at that point, because you had no option, and out of love, you kept that baby. So I clap for every single person who gets pregnant mistakenly and keeps the pregnancy. I thank them for that particular courage. God will help. For the widows, God has promised in the Bible that he's the husband of the widow and the father of the fatherless. So there is enough in scripture to make us not feel anxious. The woman who is not married, how do you pour out your heart for God? There's so much charity work we can do, so much we can give ourselves to, so many places we can love. It's not only in marriage you can love. So train yourself to love Jesus. His mandate to us is clear. You must love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your mind and with all your strength, and you must love your neighbor as yourself. The single person stands in a position to love Jesus without any constraints and to serve him in the world, to bring the love of Jesus to those who do not know. And it's not necessarily in church that you do that. There are IDPs here. We now have IDPs, internally displaced persons. Nobody remembers to go and look after them. Nobody remembers anything. There's so much to do. But single people are crying for marriage. It is while you are becoming a God woman that you find the God man. That is how you are. But you sit down in your room, shut the door, I don't have a husband, and the one that has a husband is crying. The one whose husband is dead is crying. All of you. So what we have are crying women, not becoming women. So all this has to end. We have to take, first of all, meet Christ and live. That's your task number one. Ask him where you should be going. Number two, respect yourself. Ensure that others respect you. A lot of women make friends with men and don't create boundaries. Men and women are not the same and you don't understand them. Do not concentrate on academics alone. Learn to sew, learn to crochet, learn to weave hair, do makeup, bake, cook, draw, grow vegetables, do anything, but make sure you do something. Establish rules of behavior for yourself. And if you're a single person, keep busy. Keep busy, very, very busy. For the married woman with children, she's busy already. For the childless married woman, you are not a curse. You are a blessing because you have time to serve your neighbor and to serve God. And to serve that man, pay attention to him. No matter if he's going about to look for children. Once you are a God woman, God cares for you. He has your back. So stop crying about children. I think it was Psalm 127 that says, children are gifts from God, and he gives to who he likes. A friend of mine just died at 50 the other day, and I'm still alive. I'm older than her. So God does what he likes, and everything he does is good. Some people will lose their husbands. Others will have their husbands till they are 90. Sometimes I see two old people, husband and wife. They're about 85, 86, 90, 91. And I'm thinking, how does God do this? Meanwhile, some have lost their children or lost their husbands. But remember, in any situation, God does everything well. You are a widow, you've lost a child, anything, God does everything well. Return to that place of prayer and say, in this situation, how do I become your woman? That's the most important thing. Never forget that women are the moral conscience of a nation. Nigeria is counting on you. Counting on you big time to bring that love. Single woman, divorced woman, sad woman, angry woman, your mission is to love. Start today to make that point to yourself. Thank you so much for listening. I'm open to questions now.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. It went so quick. Thank you very much, Ma, for the depth of your wealth of experience that you shared with us. And of course, this has already generated some questions. I know some had come in earlier on. I'll come to those. But one of the questions that came up now says, how can one handle a polygamous marriage she was deceived into? How can one handle a polygamous marriage she was deceived into? That will be the first question, and I have quite a few others.
How can one handle a polygamous marriage?
How can one handle polygamous marriage she was deceived into? So apparently she didn't know that this person had a spouse before they got married.
Okay. Are you a Christian? Yes. You didn't know? Yes. You genuinely didn't know? Yes. Which is why I keep saying that we need a set of questions. I am publishing a set of questions that every courting couple must ask for. You must ask questions. You must dialogue. What happens to women? We talk so much. We don't talk enough. We don't talk much. We talk too much, but we don't talk enough. That's what happens to us. So we get into the wrong things. We don't dialogue, we discuss. There's a difference between dialoguing and discussion. You meet a man, there's certain things you want to ask him about your feeling, but there is a resistance. No, I can't ask him. I have a girl whose who's marrying a widower. I said, did you ask him how his wife and him live? She said, no, I haven't asked him. Have you asked him, have you married before? Many people marry in America, in Europe, and they come here and they take a new wife, and you don't know. So if this has passed and you are there, all I can say is that if you have children for him and you are a Christian, go into an arrangement with him. Look at what happened in Ezra and Nehemiah. When Ezra read out to the children of Israel, he said if they are returning to be the people that God meant them to be, Israelites, put away your foreign wives, because you were not allowed in the first place to marry to marry foreign wives. Return your foreign wives. Sort them out, but return them. That could mean that there'll be no more sex in their relationship. It does not mean that the man will abandon the children. What is making this relationship not okay is that you are having sex with this man when he's actually married. When you discovered, you should put a cut. If you are a Christian woman, if you are not a Christian woman, I cannot determine. I'm going by what Jesus is saying. And so sit down with the man and negotiate. Better to cut off sex than to miss heaven. Jesus says, if your eye is going to cause you to sin, cut it off. Now you know where you are. Cut it off. But he has a responsibility for the children. And so there should be a mediation. Either you go to someone, he will even be happy. But he can't have his cake and eat it. You need a man. Marriage is an exclusive relationship. Christian marriage is an exclusive relationship. God, my husband is Christ, wife is the church. It is a mystery. So if they are married like that and you are interfering, you cannot become God's woman. And that other woman cannot become God's woman because of you. She knows you are there and she's abusing you every day and praying against you and your children. But if she knows you have let her go, tell him no more sex between us. Look after the children. How much would you be giving? You decide, I won't marry again. I will live for my children. And make sure, the key thing is no sex. But like I told you, maybe you have a high libido and you want sex. Pray about it. Nobody becomes God's woman by living in sin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you. For our participants, thank you for sending in these questions. We're coming to them piece by piece. We can all remember that Mrs. Itsueli has pointed out the effects of socialization on how that seems to influence self-esteem and sense of insecurity amongst women, irrespective of their marital status, whether married, single, or widowed. And we need to free ourselves from this influence. We need to become God women, and turn away from all the anxieties around whether we're married or not married or want to be married, and really become a God woman. So we have a few other questions, Ma. What do you do if you have passion for a particular enterprise, but your spouse considers it beneath your academic qualification?
Thank you very much.
Or there are things you want to be involved in and your spouse won't allow you? Yes.
This is domination we are talking about, not dominion. I am me and you are you. Love is separateness. I always say that. Allow me to be me. Let me be woman. If I say I can do something, allow me do it. Support me. Now, if he's not supporting you, why don't you have a conference with him? Call him to a dialogue. You go and see how can you get that thing. He may actually be right in the sense that you need to get the what it takes to do it. So what does it take? Don't just say that. What's wrong with most of us is when men say these things that they say, perhaps not out of goodwill. We read it in what it is. This man doesn't want me to do this thing. Let me tell you something. Give it a better interpretation. Say perhaps he wants me to be better than I am. Rechristen that thing. And when you go, when your mind is rechristened, when you're saying, perhaps he really wants the best from you. This one I'm thinking he doesn't want the best. Maybe he does. Pray about it. God, I'm going to talk to him about this. God has your back. Make him nice food. Be very nice to him for a week. Then sit him down one day and say, you know that thing you told me? You are right. Can you help me? What do you think I need to get? And can you support me to be that thing? If he says, no, do something else, tell me something else because I can't wrap my mind around anything else. Or do you think I can start this thing small? If it is something that requires financing, maybe he's thinking you are going to come and ask him for it and you will fail halfway. Many women have failed because we don't bring a financial plan to what we do. The World Bank meeting that I went to once, they said Nigerian women are very, very much entrepreneurial, but they have no paper trail. They have nothing called paper trail. And so Ghanaian women get more money than we do. So I am sympathetic to the man who says to his wife, sorry, I think this thing is. Go to someone, an accounts person, even a school person in accounting, polytechnic, can do a cash flow for you. How much do I need? What do I? Let him see some planning into this thing that you want. Not just that you want money and you want this and you want him to pay for it. No, because most likely for you to be stopping, you know, to feel that you are not qualified is that you need him to support you with money. But anybody that is giving you money has a right to find out whether that money will waste or not waste. Therefore, if you are requiring money from him.
But in this case, Ma.
Pardon?
Yes. I was going to say, Ma, in this case, he actually thinks that you're too qualified for this. He says it's beneath you. What about in that kind of situation?
He thinks the most important thing, I have been saying that from Genesis chapter 1:26-27. I am sovereign. Only God is over me in the matter that concerns my destiny, my career, my plan. For instance, a man says, you cannot go to London to have your baby because my mother did not go to London. If I have money to pay for myself, he cannot stop me because my life is my jurisdiction, not his. Money is his jurisdiction. And women you must be able to be just. Justice is required. Justice is required. It's my life. I want to do this thing. The way you can love me as husband is to hear me, express myself, and guide me. And how many men do their wives support who make mistakes in business? Many, thousands.
Yes.
So making mistake is not a tragedy. Men make mistakes. They put the family money in wrong things. So the fact that I will make a mistake and I'll fail is no reason not to try. The only thing is, woman, sit down. This is a call to you to plan. Look for who will plan for you. This is why one of the things Relate Africa wants to do is to speak to women like that. We have meetings once every 3 months where we help women to say, this is what you need. We bring other women who have succeeded, particularly if you're a married woman and you feel that your husband is not letting you. I would like you to think differently. He's letting me, but he's asking me to be detailed about what I want. And if he says I'm overqualified, I want to work below my qualification. That's what I want, is what God is calling me. As long as when it fails, I'm unhappy, I don't go back to him. I know a husband who says, the reason I am saying this woman shouldn't do this thing is that when it fails, it's me she will come to bail her out. She should listen to me now. So women, stop being so dependent. If you're going to be dependent, then make sure you listen to advice. If you're not going to be dependent, then nicely state your position. Try and encourage your husband to see your point. Like I said, be very nice to him and then call for a dialogue. A dialogue is, I just want, do you have an hour? Please, I want to say something to you about my destiny, about my plan. This thing is burning in my heart. It's burning. It's as if I don't do it, I will feel a failure for the rest of my life. The way we talk, the way we communicate our dreams matters, because the man has come from a negative socialization of woman. So you need to overcome that, but you must not be resentful. Anything you think is a stop, give it a better interpretation and act on it. That's the way to go. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Ma. I like that bit where you said nicely have a conversation. Nicely have a conversation. We should always,
Yes.
brave enough to nicely have that conversation. As a single woman with different suits of what I am to do, how can I be sure of who God wants me to marry? Is it okay to marry a man because he's a good man? A second angle to that question, Ma, is how do we establish healthy?
Sorry, Wendy, I didn't hear them. How do we rebuild trust in marriage?
Ma, should I go by it?
Yes, I was
No,
going
no,
to
no.
take.
It's another question here, please.
Okay.
Should I go on? Should I go on?
Go ahead. I didn't hear the question.
Okay, I said, as a single woman with different suitors, I know myself and what I am to do, but how can I be sure of who God wants me to marry? Is it okay to marry a man because he's a good man?
How can I be
A
sure?
second angle to this question is, how
can I be sure? I didn't hear that.
Yes, how can I be sure of who God wants me to marry?
Ah,
Is it okay to marry a man because he is good? Someone else asks a similar question and says, how do I establish healthy boundaries, especially as a single woman? So two
you see,
different questions from single women.
this is a long question, and I can say one thing that works with marriage is as much harmonization as possible. Find grounds of harmonization with each other. What do we have in common? Religion is one very important state. Social levels is another important state. In other words, we must have certain similarities in our backgrounds. Unless then you have education. These three things, when they harmonize, you are fine. But 2/3 must harmonize. 1/3 is not good enough. So go and ask questions. What I can do, I will send some questions to Dr. Shodi to help the single women. Questions you ask 3 months into a relationship, 6 months into a relationship. If you're over 25 and you're dating a man who is 27 and above, he should know after 3 months whether he wants to date you. And then you move into second gear of your dating. That second gear takes you up to 6 months. By 6 months, you should be expecting that he's introducing you to his friends, maybe distant family members, uncles and cousins, and you are seeing the way he is going on. You cannot take a decision to marry a person in isolation. You have to see him in his social environment. And it is there you can decide who he is. So there is a lot to do. I cannot say all of them now, but a man is a good man is a good beginning. I honestly think so. But you need to check. Is he from a broken home and you are not? Is he a Christian and you are not? Did he go to school and you didn't, and you didn't? Is he a trader and you're an academician? I am giving all these things. Is his mother, what home did he grow up in? How many siblings does he have? You know, I had a young girl who came once and said to me that her mother said she shouldn't marry the boy she has dated for 7 years. From university, the 4 years of university, the 1 year of youth corps, and 2 years since they started working. And the boy was in a hurry to marry. And so eventually they came to see me. And quietly she told me, without telling him, she said her mother said that there are only 2 of them, she and her brother. And her mother was a widow very early. The father died that she didn't know her dad. And so the mother has treated them like a mother hen. This boy comes from a family of 12 children. And she said when you go to their house, nothing works. Nobody is special. And so their quarrel had always been, she wants to feel special. He is thinking, what is the matter? He couldn't get it. And so the mother said, this boy is not right for you. When she came to tell me, I said, tell me all the other incidents. The boy lives in a community of his family and can never do that isolation thing that she wants. There's a limit to, yes, God says leave father and mother. It is true. But you have to look at someone's socialization. If someone is socialized in a situation where they can't leave father and mother, deal with that first before you go into the marriage. So, and I said to her, so how do you feel? She said, I've been to their house. I feel like an alien in that house. I said, okay, but it's not the house you are going to marry. She said, but still. I said, but you've dated him for 7 years. She said, that is why I have had a doubt in my heart. And so number one, if you have a doubt, don't go. I said, are you ready to tell him that you have a doubt and you want to cut it off? You can't have had a doubt for 8 years, for 7 years. She said, actually, to be honest, maybe I don't really want to marry. And I brought him in, and she told me, he burst into tears. My heart was breaking. But they're not married, so there is no better break now than later. Better cry now. And he got up and said, Mrs. Itsueli, I brought her here for you to convince her to marry me. And all you've done is make her not marry me. I will never see you again. And he kept his word until we met somewhere about 10 years later. And I saw him and I said, that's you. He saw me. Mrs. Itsueli, this you ever did. He walked up to me, hugged me, and said, God bless you. Thank you that I didn't marry the other guy. I've got an amazing wife. And I said, yes, sometimes we hold on. God woman doesn't hold on. She checks very well. Okay.
Thank you very much. God woman doesn't just hold on. She checks very well. Thank you so much for that. So another question has to do with, other things that put pressure on our emotional well-being. So I have two questions around that. The first one says, how do I handle my emotional well-being with bringing up a child with special needs? That's the first one. And the second one says, how can I get my inspiration? How can I get my inspiration back to excel in life when I'm in a very demanding relationship with little affection? The relation is very demanding. It's demanding of this person, and there's little affection that is exchanged in return. So we have bringing up a child with special needs and a demanding relationship with little affection. How do these people cope?
First of all, to both situations, really, I empathize. They are hard rock situations. Okay? First one, the child with disabilities is a child God has given you. What I recommend, first of all, to help you cope, I read somewhere about what is called soaking prayer. You know when you have a stain on a dress you like, you get a nice stain remover. Prayer is a stain remover. And you soak that thing in prayer. And God helps you ameliorate the situation that seems challenging and unending. The problem with a child with disabilities are many: emotional, cognitive, and social. A lady that I counsel finds that she can't travel with her son on the airplane. He's a boy that has autism. If a child has autism, it's a spectrum. And so you're a doctor and you know it's a spectrum. And so they have different behavior patterns. This particular woman cannot stay in a car, a bus, a plane, or anything where there are crowds, and that boy is agitated. He will yell until they come down from that thing. And she used to be embarrassed that, this is terrible. Everybody was saying, can she control her child? Because the boy looks normal. Children with autism can look normal. It's just that they behave odd. So they'll be looking at her and she'll feel like crying. So these are some of the challenges of having children with disabilities. What I would say is we need to seek support groups and have like a social worker. It is very hard, but one of the things Relate Africa is trying to do is to set up support systems for people in these impossible situations. Women living with lupus. Women, I have a number which I can send to you. I don't know the disability the child has, but I know a group here, and I know a woman whose child has autism, and she set up something on Adenoro. Lagos State has now taken her over, and it's a lovely center because it was founded on her own child. Have you seen what I'm saying about becoming? She has a child with autism. She was a doctor, and she decided, I'm not going to do medicine. I'm going to sit down with this boy, study this boy, and when I have sorted it out, find other people to help. That is a becoming. That is a God woman. So your situation is hard. I can tell you that. Nobody can tell you it's easy. Maybe we need to find out, first of all, keep soaking prayer. Soaking prayer is a forever prayer. But I have looked at women I have asked to do the soaking prayer for their children. Where they would have been down on 0.9, they've risen to 0.15. That is an amazing change. Maybe they will never be free of autism or Down syndrome or any other cerebral palsy, anything. But you can see that it's manageable to the mother. What I know is that you need you need good medical support. You need a good social network of people who have an identical situation as you have. That's what I would say. I would just ask Dr. Shobi to remind me to send the phone number. If it is autism, please confirm to her that it is autism. If it is not autism, then let me know what it is. I work with a lot of NGOs that support, at least you can get help, you can get advice, and you can at least know that there are other people like you and share information. Information sharing is very important. As no child that has a physical challenge or a mental is the same as another, you know? So it's important to do that.
Yes.
So if you can get in touch with Dr. Shobi,
Thank you.
The second
very
question.
much. I've been warned that we only have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
I've been warned that we only have 5 minutes left, Ma, and I want you to run through 4 more questions. I don't know how you're going to do it, but let's try, Ma.
Okay, and the other question that had to do with living with a husband, who, I don't remember the question now, living with a husband.
I'm in a very demanding relationship with little affection.
Yes.
And, you know, how do I, you know, get my inspiration to excel back in life?
Let me come here and say to you, what would the God woman do? That's really when I face a difficulty. I say, what will the God woman do? I'm in this situation now. This man is negatively socialized for love. He probably was not raised in love and doesn't even know it. An author that I like said, a person whom love has not been revealed to. Love, to him, love is senseless. And so it becomes like you, the wife, you are a missionary of love. That's why I ended that slide with, your mission is to love. Sit down today. Write down the things what are the positive things you can do? Even the most hard-hearted man. The problem is that you feel you are wanting to take from him to receive his love. He doesn't have it to give you. He doesn't have it. He's an empty tank. It is trying to, and you want him to fill your own empty tank. And so you are resentful. First of all, today, pray away your resentfulness. I know women we are resentful when our husbands don't love us, because the natural thing a woman wants is to be loved. When I now enter love to teach the person who is to love me how to love, I'm angry. So I'd just like to ask you to pray, put down all the negative feelings you feel, call them by name. I'm angry, I am annoyed, I dislike this man, I do this. And when you have put that, I remind you, God says, love your enemies. He's not your enemy, but God has given us a bar that says, even if he's your enemy, you know how to love him. And then start some small dialogues with him. This is a very interesting and challenging for me. And for me, I am happy to say that a lot of women I work with, we find that we overcome this. So if you want, you can give me a call and we can look at it. There are times you do need help. You cannot carry this load all by yourself. So you need support and you need help. And you need guidance to know you're going in the right place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. Someone has just asked me that you didn't seem to touch on the question on boundaries of the single woman maintaining healthy boundaries as a single woman with men. How can we establish this? And I have 2 more questions, Ma.
Yeah, establishing.
How can you establish healthy boundaries as a single woman in our relationships with men?
For a start, there is no friendship between a man and woman. Platonic, it doesn't exist, I am sorry to say. If you understand the physiology and the psychology and the sexuality of men, you will know that it's not possible. Eventually, it degenerates to sex. And therefore, there should be a distance, a healthy distance. That is not to say don't relate with men. I know that one of the things I did for me is always, I don't crack dirty jokes with men. No dirty jokes. No pulling down other women. You start, no laughing about women or laughing about other people's wives or whatever. This is, if you have to meet the person, meet them in a group. Never meet, you and the person, so that after a while, the person begins to think, I have something going for you. Unless it's somebody you think you are courting for marriage. Secondly, it puts other men off if you're a single woman that, she's so pally-pally with all the men. Who knows who she has slept with? Because they themselves do not believe. But when they see you putting boundaries, they say, I like the way this woman is very strict with men. Okay, we are not men, no matter what. We are in a social environment where men see women as tools until that changes. But that is when the whole world becomes Christian. As it is, the whole world has not become Christian. Therefore, you need to protect yourself in a jungle. So I would say keep that friendship, going out with them alone, calling them on the phone 24/7. You know, there's no point for that, especially if they're married. It is not right, because we live in a world of secular socialization, not Christian socialization. And so that's what I mean by boundaries. You will know. You know, sometimes we're all under pressure to be. I had a group. I founded a group of young women and young men to see if we can be finding them each other meeting. And then I just only noticed that, yes, it's a prayer meeting. But after the meeting, I'll see the girls slapping the boys on the back, you know. So I called them, I said, this is what I'm talking about. You're not supposed to be slapping him. He's not a girlfriend. He's a friend in the prayer meeting. So you must put a boundary between you and him. Because as you slap him in the back, he thinks you're slapping every other boy like that. And as a boy, he doesn't like it. So he's not going to one day say, I want to take you out. So this is where we women cheat ourselves. We think that when we are now very familiar with them, then they will marry us. No, 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 no. Men don't like any woman they want to marry to be familiar with any other woman. That is not to say that that is the reason I must behave in a particular way, but that it is a good way to behave. There are boundaries in every relationship. And so cut your boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma. We could go on and on. We have so many questions, but I've been told we really have to stop now. So to our participants, we want to appreciate them. And I know you do have another meeting. So on behalf of the Covenant Nation, Pastor Kojo Yemade and his beautiful wife, Pastor Toyo Yemade, we want to thank you so much, Ma, for the honor you've given us by being present and teaching us so much from your wealth of experience. We appreciate you, and may God bless you and renew your strength, and God be with you. Thank you. Bye-bye, Ma. Bye-bye to our participants.
It's an honor being here. Thank you, all of you, for listening. You are an amazing group. God bless you, women. I love women.